Hi, everybody. Sorry about that. This thing has been acting up. I hope everybody's Wednesday's going well. It is very wet here today. Very, very wet here today. So, you're going to hear the pitter patter of little raindrops on the roof the whole time. It's very, very rainy here today. But, like I was saying last week or the week before, we got our new top up. So, we should be good. We should be good. Cheers to that. What's been happening with everybody? I hope everybody enjoyed that video. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I'm really sorry about the situation with Neil Gaiman though. It's that doesn't even do it justice. Like it is terrible. It's terrible how often these things happen. How many men in the public sphere, like not just in entertainment, obviously. Not just men, but it is overwhelmingly men. And I don't think that's a conspiracy, suffice it to say. I don't think that's a conspiracy. I've literally heard people say that is some sort of conspiracy put forward by people feminists. And I'm just like, are as if feminists control anything? Real feminists. Women who are in it for the betterment of all women, like, yeah, right. That describes every, woman politician I've ever seen. No. Individual women are just as capable as being power hungry as men. Like, a powerful woman is not a feminist make, unfortunately, necessarily. So, I don't know. I got the opportunity yesterday. Somebody asked me what patriarchy is. And I'm like, the masculine hierarchy we all live in. That question mark? I don't think I actually typed that. That's implied. I did. Didn't need to explain that. I mean, I've definitely seen people who say that it doesn't exist. Or even that the inverse is true. That we live in a matriarchy. Because women have certain privileges. Mm-hmm. Like the privilege of having, for a large part of us, our biggest potential, sexual romantic partners, also our biggest potential threat. Like, that doesn't fuck with your head, right? How far are we into this? I don't know if I can swear. I don't know that it matters. 50, 60 people watch this. And you guys are my core, and I love you. And I'm not, trying to diss you guys, but I don't know that YouTube is paying that close attention to this little corner of the internet lately. Or at all. I'm swinging at the big guys, though. Neil Gaiman's not actually in the video, but the guy who I'm arguing at is just very, very into him. And it shows. Well, thank you for the like. Whoever's here, I can't see you because I have an alert on my screen. If you take it. What up, Joe? Hey, I missed you last week. How you doing? I don't know if you missed it a minute ago. I was saying how frustrating it is that so many of these public figures, these men, not just in media, obviously, so many of them turn out to be these entitled predator types, right? And on the one hand, a lot of times you don't become successful because you don't want success for yourself, right? Because you're not aggressive necessarily, but like ambitious, right? And it's okay to be ambitious sexually, but not aggressive, right? Like that's the line. Okay, when you start reaching out and groping people without their permission, that's predatory behavior. That's bad, right? And I don't. It's not as if you can just say, "Oh, well." It's so hilarious to me that at this point, it was within my adult life, the 2000s. Okay, I was 20 in 2003, so this is within my adult life that people can say, oh, he was a product of the time. It's like, yeah, I mean, I know that the media was wild berries back then, but no. You can't. This wasn't the office culture of the 1960s or whatever that has, notoriously just drunk groping all over the place. I wasn't there for that. Maybe that's a myth too. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Regardless, Mad Men was on TV then, right? And the whole point of that was that character went through an arc where he learned that shit was bad, right? Like, I don't know if Neil Gaiman watched that show. I'm the sort of asshole who didn't watch the second half of the last season because it looked sad and I didn't want to cry. Gross. Yeah. And it's always gross and it's always predatory. Okay. And I feel like if we thought about it for a few minutes, we could probably think of, parables and folklore and wise tales that go back a very long way. Maybe offer men the advice to not do that. To not treat the women in their life like cookies in a jar. But really, I mean, truth be told, my full opinion is that sort of behavior speaks to some sort of deficiency in the human being. Perpetrating it is a failure of empathy on a massive scale that I don't like to think about. It's really hard because it seems like any public men that you start to respect end up being assholes in the end. It's really disheartening, yeah, which is why I'm sticking with old farts. I love Paul McCartney. I love Patrick Stewart. Okay, people who've been famous for 40, 50, 60 years. Like, if they were assholes, people would have stopped working with them right now. Do straight men even like women? No, I don't think a lot of them do. Which, okay. I touched on this a minute ago too, how as a woman, a lot of us, if you're straight, your greatest potential sexual and romantic partners are also your greatest potential threat in life, which is going to mess with your head, right? And I think there's some sort of inverse thing going on there with men, where they find themselves incapable of looking at us as full human beings, but at the same time, want us as sexual and romantic partners, which is a tragic scenario. If you truly believe that the other half, for women too, there are women who believe this, and I don't want to say I feel sorry for them, but it's a sad state. It would be, hypothetically, if the opposite sex were somehow just mentally deficient by nature. And that would put the more capable ones in a sad position, right? I don't know. I heard something funny this morning that ancient Greece invented love, but it was the Romans who introduced it to women. I thought that was pretty funny. Because apparently ancient Greek culture was very homoerotic in that way, and they really didn't have a whole lot of respect or love or admiration or any of that shit for the women in their lives. Sad. It was a sad state of affairs, and that's like the cradle of our civilization. So yeah, I wrote a blog post a while back about how civilization wasn't built for us, and I meant that. That's what I think of when we talk about getting to the root of the problem with feminism. Taking these ideas, we have to gather ourselves first. I mean, I don't know. I want to see. I hope Kitty Cat shows up today because she made a special guest appearance on someone else's channel yesterday, I guess it was, and it was so funny. She wasn't funny. It was so good though. I hope she shows up. I want to wait a little while and see if she shows up before I talk about it. Yeah. That was so much fun. But as far as Neil Gaiman's work, my personal opinion is, again, his personal deficiencies. I caught part of that with Kitty and left the comment. Nice. Awesome. I had to show up and support her, obviously. I was a bit late because Miss Thing did not send me a link. She did not tag me in that video. And then had the gall to suggest that I was not really me. It's like, it'd be a really easy way for you to figure I probably was me if you had sent me a link to this. It made it easier to find. But, yeah, Neil Gaiman. So, when you put his personal deficiencies don't necessarily need to enter into the treatment of his work, okay? He doesn't need to necessarily personally enter into the treatment of his work, right? Like, such things have been done. If his work, if you manage to tap into something, or you're as an artist, when you make something like that, a novel, a painting, a film, whatever. Films have many parents, of course, but it is almost like a baby. It's like another entity that you have created in the world, okay? And art belongs to everyone who encounters it. That's why art is so amazing and magical and wonderful, and it will never die, right? So, in my opinion, if you want to continue making the shows without the dude, I would not. Okay. Is that, let someone else write the treatments for them. Let someone else write the screenplay. Let someone else do that. If he's such a bastard. If someone is a provable, irretrievable bastard, then just shut them out. Don't work with them anymore. And if you enjoy what they've left behind, then fine. Make the best of it. Because it's the people who are the problem. It's the predatory behavior of the man that's the problem. Right? And I think part of the reason that people were so surprised by this is that there is not a trace of that. I've never heard of anything, people do not look at Neil Gaiman's work and go, oh my God, it's full of these, problematic messages. And it's just so weird because he seems like such a nice guy. Like, I've never heard that either. Okay. He wrote Coraline, for God's sake, which is a story about a little girl. All right. If there were going to be lecherous shit in something, you'd think that would be. I haven't read that one, admittedly, and I've heard that the book is very different than the film that I've seen 1,000 times because I've worked it. But I've never heard that. I've watched criticisms that compare the book and the film, which is why I know the book is so different. Because I'm interested in that kind of thing. And I probably will get around to reading that one at some point, just to see how in the fuck do you progress that plot without Wybie. That sounds cool. And probably going to wish that they just left that character out, because I don't like him all that much anyway. I don't understand. I've never understood exactly what the point of him was, but he does do a lot of exposition. So how in the hell does she learn all that without that? But anyway, I did read Neverwhere, which is, from the point of perspective of a male protagonist, a young male. He's a young man. So again, I remember you from Rad Femme Witches and the old R Agenda Critical. Yeah, saw you on Over It and got excited. Thank you. Yeah, hey, it's been a while, hasn't it? Mm-hmm. That's why I use that same handle over on Over It still to this day, because I'm hoping some people from the old community will be like, oh wow, because it's a memorable handle, but it doesn't really fit the whole brand, So hey, welcome. How you doing? What was on my roll drive? What was I talking about? Neverwhere, yeah. So he's a young male protagonist in that book, which again, following this young woman around. So again, would have been I did read that one, and that would have been a perfect opportunity to, sprinkle in grief factor, and I don't remember seeing it. All right. I think that's why people are so shocked and don't want to believe this about him, because it's not in there. Right. On the other hand, my husband, frighteningly, made a really good point when we were watching that one through last night, which is that the fella who's defending him in my video, who I'm arguing at, who's defending Neil Gaiman, is saying that one of these stories is obviously nonsense because someone so eloquent as Neil Gaiman would never possibly tell someone that they're a very wealthy man and they're used to getting what they want. And my husband immediately clapped back with, I don't know, that sounds a lot like a dude who wants people to call him master, which is also alleged. And dude in the video was totally allowing for that. He's like, oh, that just sounds like kinky sex, which is the thing that offended me personally the most, where he was talking about how real artists don't kink shame. That's his expression. He wants people to call him master. Why are you hating? It's like, it sounds pretty hateful. Me, to begin with. Like, who started that, right? And secondly, real artists don't kink. What the fuck kind of thought terminating cliche is that? That is awful. That is the most offensive thing in the whole video to me. Not like I go around being like, I'm such an artist, but like, I find myself compelled to like write and paint pictures and shit and hide away from the world because I get overwhelmed and all that shit. So it's like, if the shoe fits, right? So I just don't think that makes any sense. I think that someone who has an artistic temperament needs to protect themselves, finds themselves compelled to protect themselves. Okay, like that level of aggression is very strange to me. Just anyway, like what the fuck? You're a famous writer, a famous author. Like you could have the ladies. You can have ladies. Like you don't need to go groping 20-year-olds. That's the thing that he didn't mention. Is it that girl from 2003 or whatever it was who he, did things to against her will while she was on a UTI and had terrible pain from that? She was like 23, and he was twice her age. Okay, and he was a famous man at the time. So it's like the dynamic of taking advantage of a fangirl is just so obvious there. And it's like, yeah, they were dating. Great. So he's dating his groupies. Any idiot knows that that's bad cricket. What the fuck? You don't do that. Everybody knows that. I just don't. I can't quite put myself in his shoes. I can't quite do it. No, and again, I come from this might be hard to believe, but I was really into like rock and roll and like garage rock, and like I used to read and heard and seen some stuff, and like all the most famous musicians in the world, okay, those dudes back from the 60s and 70s when it was hedonistic as all shit, that was their. Like you let the roadies stick with the groupies, you don't do that. Even they knew that, is what I'm saying. Even people like Led Zeppelin in the 1970s knew that shit. Okay. So he thinks he's more entitled than a rock star. Like, what the fuck? I don't. What is this? What do you make of that behavior other than, oh, them bitches all lying? Why? That is the least convincing thing to me, because what happens? Oh, because they all want to get Anita Hill? What? That's insane to me. What the hell is the motivation there? They want to get famous for being that lady who accused that dude of stuff. That's ridiculous. That sounds terrifying to me. Even more terrifying than the initial experience. And this stuff is allowed to go on in large part because, of that little cycle right there, where people are afraid to speak up because of the shit that happens when you do. Because shit goes down when you do, right? You get raked over the coals. Your own character called into question, as if that matters, all right? You could be the most willing of the night, and it still doesn't give anybody the right or privilege to do painful things to you against your will. So I don't know where in the hell. I want to say I don't know where he gets off. It's psycho behavior. If half that shit is true, it's psycho behavior. And it's sad, but like it speaks to the broader culture around someone like that. These things don't exist in a vacuum, especially not for 40 years. And it's almost as if other branches of media might have similar problems to what we've seen in the film industry, perhaps. I'm not saying that, and like in politics, excuse me, I'm not saying that Neil Gaiman is a Harvey Weinstein or anything like that. But those two things exist in sort of two different pockets of the same pool, don't they? And I wager those two fellows probably met one another. Like, I'm just spitballing now, but and then people want to come to me and say that we don't live in a patriarchal culture, that we don't live in a hierarchy that favors men and masculinity. And I just, how can you possibly say that? When someone like this, which again, I think this goes back to just a character flaw, a massive character flaw. The man lacks empathy for females, clearly. All right. Especially attractive ones, I guess, but not always. I don't know. The point remains, he's demonstrated this repeatedly, apparently. And I just can't imagine that attitude doesn't come across interpersonally, how people talk behind closed doors, etc., etc., etc. So, I don't know. Maybe if the person running the publishing company 30 years ago or whatever it was when he published his first fucking book had not been somebody like that. Or, at any of the many steps along the way throughout his career, many people could have just not greenlit something. Could have just not given him an advance for something because they knew that he was sort of a freak. And just been like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. And now everybody is, the way that everybody is pulling the wagons, circling the wagons against him, tells me that people knew things all along. Like that. And now they're just like, whoa, 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 not it, not it. So that's fun. Which leads me to suspect all of them, which is not fun. But it just looks logical to me. Like, why? They're shocked, yeah, but it has been very swift. It's been 2.5 months since that stuff came out. And as Dude said repeatedly over and over again, there's been no day in court. There's been no official charges levied against this man, so why in the hell did it take one summer for all of his projects to get canceled? That's not a bad question. And to me, that is the only obvious logical answer to that, is that, they know it's coming. Because the people around him already knew this. As has happened so many times before. We've seen this exact scenario. What up, kitty cat? How you doing, girl? Brave bitch, you. How did you feel about that yesterday? Shit. You were awesome, by the way. Yeah, I don't know if I would go so far as to call Neil Gaiman like a sociopath or something, but he clearly severely lacks empathy for the women around him. It's bad. If half that shit is true. With the interview, it was pretty funny. Yeah. You were great. Obviously, I want to talk about that. I've been waiting for you to get here. Not that I don't have plenty to say on Neil Gaiman, because it speaks to the just endemic rot and misogyny and bullshit that is just all over that industry too. And I don't know how there's any way to deny that. And it's upsetting because, like I said, it did hit me a little closer to home because I'm writing some novels myself, right? I consider myself to be like a writer. I certainly don't hero worship Neil Gaiman the way the fellow in my video does. Right conscious. Who's trying to start a literary renaissance that is immune to cancellation. And it's like, why would you need to do that particularly? And he's horrified at the troops coming for Neil, right? Because, it really feels like a there but for the grace of God go I, right? It really feels like if I were in his shoes, I would have done exactly what he did, and that feels really like a for that guy. Oh lol. Isn't he the author of Coraline? Yeah. Yep. And various other things I have not read. I did read one of them. I read Neverwhere like 10 years ago. Something. And American Gods and a couple of them have been adapted for like Netflix series. Good Omens is one of his, and I do not remember. I don't remember them all right now. Sorry. You can look him up. Which is funny because this was another one of those where the dude in the video, he was just talking live and whatever. And he was talking about some of the older allegations. One of them from the 80s. He's like, oh my God, how even old was he back then? And I just looked up how old Neil Gaiman is, when was he born, and did math. Why would you sit there and ask that question to the void? Like, you can't just go find that out right then and there. I don't understand why people do that shit. The last guy I saw doing that was Kyle fucking Kulinski, who ought to know better. That sucks. Never read it, but I love the movie. Right, yeah. Apparently the movie's quite different from the book, but isn't that strange? That one of the things he appears to have a pattern of predatory behavior towards women. I'll just say that. That is what it looks like from these allegations that were printed a couple of months ago. And there's at least one ongoing police investigation going on around one of them. And, but it's strange, right? Because he's most famous. One of his most famous works is, the protagonist is a little girl, who is not, I've never heard anyone talk about how, you know, it's so, the book is lecherous. I've never heard that. And I said this a minute ago too. Neverwhere, the one that I read, is from the perspective of a young male protagonist. He's like early 20s. And he spends the whole story following a woman around. So like, if there were going to be lechery creepiness, like that would have been a really easy, it would have almost fit. Right. And they're just, I don't remember seeing any of that, because that would have struck me as, that like, frankly, I'm very tired of things that are from young male perspectives because of exactly that. Because I don't want to hear about how whatever it is makes their penis feel. I don't want to necessarily see where, it's like hyper male gaze, sometimes. And that wasn't, this Neverwhere is not like that. And I think that's why a lot of people are so shocked by these allegations that he might be another one like this, is because it's not in his work. It's sort of like the Cosby effect, you might say, where the stuff that he makes has been so, like, beloved and inoffensive, So then, too, apparently he likes to be called master and creepy shit like that, and it's like, well, props to you for keeping it in private, I guess. For the most part, so far. And not letting your personal, maybe that's the mark of an artist. I don't know. But anyway, so as far as yesterday, I was late because she didn't send me a link. Male brain be so smooth. I'm only caring about how they do these deals. Right. And I just don't believe that. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. They don't get to be like, we invented civilization, but do not know where the hamper is. What? That's so stupid. Not buying it. We created government and literature and theater and art, but do not understand our feelings. No. Nope. Not buying it. We circumnavigated the globe, but we don't know how to work the washing machine. Nope. Not buying it. I could go on and on and on. Right? How you have such hubris? And then, try and be so pitiful. It's no. Does not compute. No. I said, yeah, she did not send me a link to that yesterday, so I had to try and remember what her channel was called. That took a minute. And mind you, I was working yesterday too, and I was writing my script at the time, so I had to finish that. So I don't really know how late I was yesterday. I don't know how long that had been going on when I got there. I think I missed most of it upon reflection. It really feels like I didn't get to see much. But I'm glad I made it. I wanted to come support you, And you guys said you weren't really looking at the chat, but like, they were really vicious. They were. It feels like incel city over there. It was literally along the lines of, feminism took from me, so now I shall see to its destruction. Like, dude, feminism does not tell women to be promiscuous. I do not know. That's not good for them. I would not say that that's a feminist position. It seems like patriarchy loves promiscuous women. The fuck are you talking about? It was only an hour-long interview. I had other things to do. Right on. I think I saw the last 20 minutes of it or something. But, like, you want to talk about people who see other people as a monolith, all right? Because they assume that I left when you did. I just sat back when you left. I just sat back and went hands off just to see what would happen. And they absolutely assumed that I left immediately. I immediately started talking about us behind our backs. It is so funny. And the person she had on immediately after you was like, well, I don't want to talk about your guest because she's not here anymore. Because I'm sure she had to go do her daily chores of keyboard mashing and blah, blah, blah. I don't, hashtag mashing. I don't know exactly what he said. I don't remember. But like, just immediately belittling you because he didn't want to talk about you because you weren't there. Touching, right? And like, she was trying to make the point that like feminism thinks misandry isn't a problem. And I've never said that. I don't know that I would say that. I think misandry is a problem. It's like not the problem though. Okay. It is a hurdle to be crossed. I don't know. It is not what feminism is about. And I made that video specifically. I know she brought that up specifically, which is funny because that was the months ago. I wants to know so terribly why I think boy moms need feminism. Like to teach to their sons, obviously. I don't I don't know. And she sounds so conspiratorial about everything, which is funny for a little while, and then I start to get tired. But so, consequently, I was sort of being firebombed in the chat, and I wasn't really able to keep track of what you guys were talking about. I'm so sorry. But there is absolutely no way that I'm going to go on her channel and run my mouth for an hour or whatever, and, you know, then give them the opportunity to turn around and make fun of me. Like, why? What did that accomplish? Not that, you know, I am against you having done it or anything. I'm glad you had a good time. That doesn't sound like fun to me, you know. Watching, you know, it was really quite a moment, though. Right, that comment about that guy who hated himself because of feminism. See, and that's the kind of thing where there is an argument for abandoning that word because it has been very corrupted by, and I've talked about this too, right? Where mainstream feminism is a fucking sock puppet. Okay? People like Gloria Steinem, magazines, books, you know, all of that messaging is very, okay, what's up? No problem, no worries. Excuse me. You know, most of the mainstream messaging has been absolutely co-opted by the bullshit machine, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Okay? Actual feminism was, you know, co-opted a long time ago. So yeah, the stuff that a lot of times gets called feminism in media these days is actually toxic nonsense. And I don't disagree with that. But feminism is women's philosophy, okay? And I'm not sure what the fuck else to call that. And have it be recognizable as that's what the fuck I'm talking about. So it's sort of a conundrum, right? Which I would love to discuss, you know, if you guys are interested in that kind of thing, if you're interested in pedantic name debates. I don't. How moody, huh? It's gorgeous today. I should open the curtain so you guys can see the rain. It's not like I have to worry about getting wet. So. Oh, I have so much work to do out here this autumn because, well, it won't be fall through all hot. You guys pissing here too? Pacific Northwest usually is. Oh, right on. Yeah, that was basically that. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that was what the whole discussion was about, basically. My stupid video. That's so weird. Why would you call you on there to talk about me? To me, feminism is just the belief that women are full-ass human beings that are equally as intelligent, valid, and needed as men. Yes. That would be the core philosophical tenet of yes. It is kind of a philosophical, I mean, it's also demonstrable fact. But I don't even like really. We don't have to prove our humanity, do we? Like that's what I'm saying. And that we have the right to all human rights afforded to us. Is that radical? It shouldn't be. But they were confused about the terminology there too. They did. Somebody went and looked up that radix with an X apparently is Latin for root, which I assume is what we're referencing there because that's what. Oh, here. It's dripping on my machine. Can't have that. So it's not an extreme position, certainly, that women are humans. No. And that's another reason why I don't necessarily like the whole radical feminism terminology, is because it does. It makes it sound like that's what that is to a modern ear, and I think that that's inescapable. Right? It rained all day here yesterday, and we needed it today, but it's 70 and gorgeous. And we needed it, but today it's 70 and gorgeous, and I decided on my way to tonight. That's fun. Maybe we'll get that tomorrow. That sounds nice. I don't know. I hear it's like a tropical storm or some shit, and it's supposed to rain like all fucking week. No walk for me. Is that radical? No, I assume you're talking to each other. Is there a difference between radical and liberal feminists? Yeah, I mean, liberal feminists would be mainstream feminists, regular feminists, if you will. Who consider themselves liberals and are feminists. Right? Kat, I don't think men can become women. Does that make me radical? Not in my book, it doesn't. I can't believe that needs to be said. Yeah, I stated the radical means roots, not extremism. I know you did. It was one of the first things I brought up. I know you said that. And that's why, after you left, they noodled that around a little bit. And could not quite understand the distinction. I don't think they ever came to it, really. Even though they did, they understood that it's like you say, Latin for to the root, right? Liberal feminists aren't feminists, in my opinion. That's what I'm saying. Mainstream feminism is not women-centered philosophy in any real sense. It's prescriptive, not descriptive. Generally speaking, tells us, it is all of the modern toxic messaging that perpetuates all the bullshit feminism is supposed to be fighting against. So yeah, I think that's a lot of toxic bullshit, and I don't disagree with that at all. I watched about half of that. You made great points. Good. Like I say, I'm glad you could really focus on what the question. I'm sure you did. I'm sure you were very articulate. I have no doubt of that. I was not insecure about what you were saying at all. And yeah, I was just sort of overwhelmed by the chat. They were such a bunch of little pricks. Kept me very busy. They couldn't understand because they don't want to understand. Yeah, I suppose. And that's, I'm not concerned with convincing people who approach things that way. That attitude, I'm like, okay, you can keep that. I'm not worried about convincing our staunchest opposition. Like, that's not what I'm focused on at all. They'll either get with the program or they won't. Being against slavery was considered radical at one time. It's a pretty fluid word. True. I don't know. Being against slavery could almost be being thought of as like trying to get to the roots of humanity's problems. But slavery is a humanity problem. It's done by race. It's done by class. It's always bad. And Glenna goes, oh shit. I brought up Black Knighting. She said she'd never been told that. Yeah. That sounded like trans maxing to me. Am I wrong about that? I wanted to say that, but like you guys weren't paying attention to the chat, so like, you know, I really had no choice but to deal with them, and that's fine. Sorry about that. You guys were. She wasn't really joking it out, and it's funny because I was sitting there thinking while you were talking that no offense, her interview skills are weak because she didn't really direct you a whole lot at all, and was sort of repetitive in her questions and just kind of let you go on. You know, like interviewing is a skill she doesn't have. And it's really funny because the dude who came, I was literally just sitting there talking to him. And like, again, I've been through media school. I don't know about some of this shit. At least in theory, I can look at it and be like, yeah, that's not. We could do that better, you know. And I've watched how many? I mean, fuck. I used to watch so much late night. Anyway. I find that stuff really interesting. You're crone maxing. Yes. Life goals. Yes. I'm afraid I'm probably going to be stuck with matriarchy, but you know, whatever. We make the choices we make. Where was I? Yeah, no. And then the dude comes on after you and is complimenting her on her interview skills. And I'm not going to sit here and say I would be a fantastic interviewer. I have absolutely no experience doing that. I'd be game to give it a go. I have no idea. I don't know. I mostly sit here and talk to myself, as you guys know. But like, I don't know. Imagine surrounding yourself with a bunch of sycophants like that. You know, and I was thinking about this earlier, just kind of idly thinking, like, that might be just coming off of the Neil Gaiman thing. That he's like kind of a psycho, apparently. Allegedly, perhaps, maybe we shall see. But there are plenty of people like that. Okay, Bill Cosby, or Harvey Weinstein. There's, you know, there's so many, how many others, right? Can behave as like normal human beings, but are apparently some form of psycho. And it's like, how? What might be, you know, the difference between like desire and influence. Like in order to get success, like I was saying, you need to want it. Usually, you have to go at it, right? People like Neil Gaiman don't acquire the level of notoriety that they have simply by virtue of writing a good book and sitting in the corner and waiting for somebody to come along and read it. Do that? No. But so, like, how do you treat the people around you? Do you want power over other people? Like, some of these people have a tendency to surround themselves with a group of underlings, right? Who they have direct authority and power over. Not influence, like power, okay? Like, if your closest associates are made up of your family who you terrorize and your employees, that might be a tell, okay? Like, not that it's not lonely at the top, but come on. Black Knighting is a term MRA and MGTOW use for men to state that they're trans as a way to beat on women. Oh, wow. I'm like, okay. That sounds ridiculous. And whenever anybody says, but whenever anybody says that, I just want to like direct them to the nearest true crime channel, right? And you don't even have to talk about the rape and murder stuff. You can literally just go and look at some of the crazy shit that, again, mainly men do for money. Forget women. Forget sex. You know, there are men out there who do absolutely batshit crazy shit for money. And then there's that guy who, built that submarine and took those people to the bottom of the ocean and squashed them all because he wanted to be a famous explorer or some shit. Like, that's straight up just fame. He was already rich. My hypothesis is that, especially at this point, is women do have a certain amount of freedom in the world. We do. There could be some rich woman out there doing shit like that, or like SpaceX. There just aren't. And I don't think that that's a coincidence. It's certainly not because we can't come up with crazy batshit ideas like that and kill people. I go sleuthing. See what they think of you when they don't think you're there listening. They'll give any woman a real insight. Yeah, that'll give any woman a real insight. Yeah. Yeah. I guess I was doing a little bit of that yesterday. But like, like, in what context do you still go sleeping? I just said a bunch of shit. I don't know. I think it's a beautiful day. Being dry helps a lot. Yeah. Having the canopy to sit under and not get rained on helps a lot. And as far as getting insight into the male psyche, I'm mostly over that. Oh my gosh, there was somebody yesterday accusing me of being, frigid and lonely, basically. Tell me you do not know me at all without telling me you do not know me at all. And I said something about having plenty of male company. I have a husband and 2 sons, okay? I am not starved for male company in the slightest. I can't stay too long. It's my mom's birthday, so I'm taking her to the pub. Oh, that sounds nice. Joe, you got to keep me company. I'm going to end up sitting here talking to myself for an hour. I don't know. I'm sure I could ramble on about the state of fiction for a while. I've been listening to book reviews of, like, I could listen to the audiobooks, and I'm sure I'll go on to that. But as far as, like, the stuff, I don't know. I'm kind of treating it like a cheat sheet because I found these people who, like, it's a team of 3 people who act as if they've known each other forever. They're so funny. And they all 3 of them have masters in, like, English. And, there are plenty of books on there that they have positive reviews of, but the negative reviews are so damn funny. Oh, if I can. And, yeah, I don't know. I've been sort of trying to, like, I've been, taking in a lot of writing advice things over the last couple of years as I've been trying to put my own novel together. And, like, obviously it's advice, right? It's not cut and dry, do this, do that, blah, blah. It's art, right? I get that. And I have a very clear idea of what it is I want to do. But sometimes the help has been really nice. Sometimes it really is nice to have external input to help develop an idea. And on that little journey, I have encountered the names of various authors who keep coming up again and again. And, just for yucks the last week or so, suffice it to say, last week was the week from hell, and that's all I'm going to say about that. All hell broke loose around here last week, so I ended up spending more time than usual on my ass. And so that's how I wandered into this little corner where I'm just going to listen to people talk about these books. Like, what the fuck are they about? How are they to read, Oh my goodness. One of these ladies, she's a YouTuber. I'm not going to name her. Anybody who is familiar with her work will probably know exactly what I'm talking about. She makes writing advice videos on YouTube, which are mostly just sort of fun. and I gather that her writing is similar. It is supposed to be fun to read. It certainly seems fun for her to write. Okay. Her protagonist appears to be the quintessence of a narcissistic psychopath who goes around killing people and cuddling with her boyfriend by turns. I'm feeling no remorse or horror or backflow of any kind from Whiplash, nothing. Okay. And all three of these people with English degrees, who could be English teachers because they're qualified for that. All three of these people said they got through this book without understanding what the setting was. That it's like a fantasy novel that's supposed to be set in sort of a world that's reminiscent of ancient Greece. Because this writer apparently considers herself to be sort of a mistress of dialogue and not so much description. And it's like, first of all, why bother? Why bother? With such an interesting and evocative setting, you're not going to describe it sufficiently for it to... That struck me as odd. And it's stuff like that I'm finding. Or there's another series that is just way too damn long. Way too big for its britches, apparently. This thing is like the thorniest, viniest rosebush ever was. It's like the Rats of Nim rosebush, this book series. By somebody who has the same first name as me, actually, which is one of the reasons. There's a couple of them, or 2 or 3 of them out there, called Sarah. And I just, oh dear. Yeah, we're definitely going to be using the initials on the book cover there. Yeah. Because I don't want any confusion there. Nope. Definitely gonna be going the initial route on the book cover. Because, not just because of this. I'd already made that decision anyway, because I think it looks dignified. It's not obviously sexed at all, right? It's not masculine or feminine. So there's no bias there, which I think is best, right? Obviously, I still do want my name on the damn thing. But this other book series is apparently now like 5 books long. And I've sat through the first 2, reviews of the first 2. And these characters, they do not make sense. And it was so bad that these people were talking about the second installment of the series reads like a fanfic based on the first one. If someone said that about this, like, again, mind you, I'm writing all 3 of mine together. It is one big story, but so I'm weaving it very tightly. You know what I'm saying? I'm not writing one and putting it out and then writing the second one and then no. I'm writing it as one giant book. And I expect it to read that way. There's another count you heard from. Okay? I'm writing it as one giant book and I expect it to read that way. Right? That's why I expect it to read that way. It is very clearly in 3 chunks. The structure is very, has been very clear from the beginning. I've played around with it a little bit, but the structure's been very clear from the beginning. And I expect that to come across very well in the reading of it because of that. Okay. But so, like, the love interest from the first book is a villain in the second book because I guess she thought the bad boy from the first book was sexier. I don't know. It's literally stupid shit like he's a fairy, but in the first book he didn't have wings. So in the second book, he's the only one of his kind who can hold his wings and tuck them away. This is supposed to be YA, but apparently it's full of graphic sex scenes, so I don't know what the fuck to make of that. Apparently not even for anybody else. I'm not going to say there's no sex in my book because that would be a lie, but it's not gratuitous. It's like, adults, communication angles. Like literally very, 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 very occasionally. Because that's not the fucking point of the book. The romance is not the point of it, but people have lives. And it is. It's the person's, the protagonist's entire life. So yeah, every so often things happen. But I don't really, that is one of the things that I would love some advice on, actually, is how to approach that. There's none of that in the first book, because the entire book, the first book is the childhood and growing up and stuff. So there's none of that in the first book. And I shudder to think that, like, for the first half of the first book, the protagonist is a child. It's like people are going to think this is YA because of that, and it's not. It's not. But apparently, what the fuck is YA is very confused right now. Apparently, I can literally put in graphic sex and violence, and people will be like, "Oh, it's YA, it's a little girl." Oh my god! No. The funny thing about that was the second one. They said that she was actually very good at writing like creepy fairy entities, and there's some and action sequences. That the spooky fairy stuff and the action sequences were very well done in her fantasy novels, but it's full of smut, which is bad. But like the smut's not. I'm like, that just feels like it would be a really uneven read. Oh my goodness. And I cracked open the third one because we just happened to have it in the house last night just to get a feel for the first. Because again, I'm just trying to dip my toe in the market, see what the fuck has been out there for the last few years, and what's going on the scene, as it were. I really, okay. I am doing first person. But one of these reviewers was saying how the problem she has most often with first person is that it's difficult to develop a realistic depth to the character. I'm not praising it exactly how she did, but I think maybe part of that is we literally get a chapter, 2 pages. We get 2 pages from one character's perspective, and then we swap to the other one, and we do stay here with her for a while. But why? That's weird to me. If you want to swap perspectives, then do third person omniscient. For fuck's sake. Or, maybe close third person and you can head hop, but like. And my question was, the reason that I read like the first 2 chapters of the third installment of this series is because I wanted to see for myself if there was, really much of a tonal change between the voices of these characters. And it hit me by surprise, actually, that it was always first person. It's still I. It's all I did, I saw, I went, I did, and it's like, but it's 2 different people speaking, and that's tricky. I'm not going to say she didn't pull it off. The setting changed a lot, but I'm sorry. Like, I don't know. And I literally started editing the damn thing while I was reading it in my head. Because that's what I do. I do that for my stuff. Oh, I'm constant. That's what I'm doing off camera. Half of what I'm doing off camera. And I'm not momming. I'm writing, doing rewrites and editing, making this, working on the second draft of my thing. So that's just what I do, like, all the time. So I did. I realized that I'm like, whoa, I gotta stop that. And you can look at it as it is, because I can't like actually change it. I can't fix it. So. But, and I know, again, it's YA, supposedly. And I just considering how mature the relationships presented are, supposedly. The actual maturity thereof is questionable, from what I gather. But, like, from the level of presented maturity, one wonders if this is really YA. Oh, what the fuck that means? Young adult? That's teenagers. Not that teenagers aren't interested in graphic sex scenes, goodness knows, but I wonder if somebody's like, if it's one of those like permanently mated to some, supernatural being stories, and you're just like, that's some unrealistic expectations. But anyway, I did not feel that she really pulled off the swap in the voices sufficiently to not make the change in perspective convincing, despite the change in setting. And that was just interesting for me. Again, my whole book is from one perspective. It is first person, but it's still the same person. And the whole thing is about this character's experiences and development through them. That is the meat and potatoes of the fucking story. So the way these people write these cardboard characters that just turn on a dime and start doing different shit from one installment to the next, and it makes it obvious on the one hand that you didn't write this stuff in one arc. Okay. And I understand, we need sub arcs. Okay. We need some things to resolve in each section so that people don't get frustrated and bored and walk away. You need to give people something for hanging out. I get that. But if you expect to make something a series, maybe just don't fucking wrap up everything at the end of the first book. Or I don't know. This is obviously amateur advice over here. But on the other hand, this is stuff that has sold millions of copies. And the one that I was watching this morning while I ate breakfast was another one, a different one, that is supposed to be set. I think this one, this is just a retelling of a Greek myth. And I think it's a little older, but apparently there are many people who love and swear by this book, people who name their children after characters and stuff like that. And I haven't really got through to the plot, the point of the plot to that one. I had to get on here and watch you guys. But I don't know. Some of the things that I consider to be fundamental, they just don't do. They were laughing about apparently in the series of series that I was talking about ridiculous bridges. They have toilets in the fairy realm. Toilets. It's not like that's impossible. They're fairies, but they have coffee shops. It's like if you want to write Sex in the City, just write something like that. They don't have to be fairies. I don't know. It all seemed like some awful Disney Channel knockoff. I don't know. It was very strange. And I'm just like, wow. I want to go and look at some of the good stuff. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing next. Obviously, that's the next step is to go and take in some of the stuff that's being said about what is good out there, and see what people like. What's knowledgeable people like. Not that one helps to have some kind of mass appeal without having to write fairies using the toilet. Like, what the fuck is that? No, and I'm really going for more of a magical realism tone with mine. I don't want to call it historical fiction, because it's not. There's definitely magical elements, okay, woven through the whole thing. The protagonist is literally a witch, okay? So, and in this universe, all that is real, right? This is not historical. But it's set, I took all that and put it, onto a pretty straightforwardly historical setting. So it is. It's more like magical realism with that genre. The most famous example of that I know of is Pan's Labyrinth, where it's set in the real world, and you're going along, and people are, it's pretty great situation they have themselves in. But it's the real world, right? And the little girl, she's going along and doing her thing, and turns the corner, and all of a sudden there's fairies and shit, Because I think that that's really powerful, actually, as a genre, and it speaks to the way, because it speaks to the way that life is like that, where you can just be kind of chugging along and doing your thing, and you turn the corner, and all of a sudden shit blows up in your face. All of a sudden shit turns crazy out of nowhere. Life is very like that. I think that's a universal feeling, that feeling of, right? I think everybody's had that moment, which makes that very relatable, but it also makes it allegorical, right? Because we're talking magic. So it makes it universal, right? But at the same time, it's not high fantasy. It's not. I really just kind of went for the witches. It's very trendy now, and this blows my mind. The smorgasbord approach to fantasy, where I guess, I don't know, people said to themselves, well, Tolkien had elves and orcs and whatever the hell else magical beings, work in Middle Earth. And, or at least, I don't know that orcs are magical, but you know what I'm saying. Alternative, races. It has all these different creatures. So that's what everybody can do. And so now we have, for one thing, at the beginning of the book series I was talking about a minute ago, the Fae seem to be closer to elves. And then in the second book, there's definitely fairies. Okay. Whatever. Not my problem. Basic folklore. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So, we'll have vampires and werewolves, right? Why? You're telling me that this I don't, or witches and superheroes. Why? It just feels like too much already. You're starting with too many things. Right? Either one of those has been well proven to be, ample fodder for storytelling. You don't need everything in your fucking story. Oh, and space travel. A lot of times, the witches and the superheroes go to space. So, lest I forget the aliens. They're very popular. Aliens come in all shapes and sizes. Some of them are witches, or essentially they're magical, right? Oh, I really tried to go for the narrow and deep approach. With mine, I really, really have. And I have never had a worry that it's going to too strongly resemble, I guess there's a lot of fan fiction goes on, which is fine. You're inspired by something about something you read and you want to write your own, your own yarn from that, whatever. I don't have a problem with that. But I know that's not what I'm doing because I haven't read any of it. I have not had time to read. Literally, I've said this before. I think the last novel I read was Wuthering Heights in 2012. So maybe it's that. Maybe I need to read something else and get it quick because, the Victoriana is just rotting in my brain. It's just stagnating and stifling me. I don't know. Oh my gosh. But apparently, I did. I cracked one open myself just to see what the prose was like, to see if she, as a writer, that's what I was looking for, to see if she established the voices of these two, the contrasting voices of these two characters from, having them back to back like that. Because to me, that would be literally the only way to effectively do head swapping with first person. Is each person's thoughts would have to have a completely different feel to them, right? And that is possible, okay? That is very possible. Read an Ernest Hemingway, read a Stephen King, and then read oh god, who's that? Beverly somebody, the lady who reads the fantasy or the romance novels. Anyway, like if you genre hop, it makes it very evident that it is perfectly possible to write in many different fucking voices. Okay. And that is what I would probably do. Is I would think to myself, okay, what genre voice might this character's inner world most resemble? Which reminds me actually of something. Kevin Can Go Fuck Himself. I want to watch that. Not necessarily for the subject matter, although the subject matter is fascinating. If anybody else has heard of that. But for the way it flips back and forth between genres. When her husband's in the room, it's a sitcom, a 3-camera sitcom, and the whole bit with a laugh track and everything. And then when he leaves the room, all of a sudden it's a single camera drama. And I love that shit. I love the way some people are like playing with genre conventions these days. I love that. It's so much fun. And then there's stuff like, oh god, I wish I had it with me. I left it in the house, but like I opened this book to sample the prose, right? And I didn't even get to that before I had to close it again and take it in and show my son to see if he saw what I saw. Okay, because the map at the front of the book of this fairy realm looks like fucking Britain, like with like the coastline of Europe, but kind of slid upwards so that France is like up by Scotland. And I'm just, here's a fun fact that I'm just going to throw out there for anybody who is ever thinking of writing a fantasy world and you want to make a map for your fantasy world. Fractals are an amazing thing. You can take a piece of coastline, just a tiny little chunk of coastline anywhere in the world, and blow it up. And the little crevices become rivers, and the little bumps become fjords, and like it just increases in scale. Okay, you don't ever have to crib from a map like that ever. Oh my gosh! And this series has sold millions of copies, and I know it's YA, but come on. That's what I was saying a minute ago. If you're going to put graphic sex scenes in your book, I feel like you can't use it's YA as an excuse for shallow world development. Okay. And I cheated with half my world building. It's literally just Victorian England, which is research, not so much world building. I still have to put it all together, but I acknowledge that. And so consequently, I spent a whole lot of time developing the setting within the narrative because I didn't have to, what kind of cups do they use? What kind of politics do they have? Who is their ruler? And what is the history of all that shit? I already know all of that. I've used it almost like the wrought iron bars, right? You got like the Floriana. Like a wrought iron fence that I had just woven these vines around, okay? And historical setting is pretty firm. Most people are pretty familiar with it. I don't feel that I have to go into a lot of depth to explain what Victorian England is. And I feel like the clothes, the way the characters talk, it's not too bad, but like, they sound old-timey. Because it's not as if I'm not going to put modern language in their mouths, basically. Or modern. I've tried to do it with syntax. Anyway. I tried to cue the setting and like trains. Everybody's wearing long billowing skirts and hats and riding around on trains. Like it's not that hard to put it together. There's only so many. And name dropping places like London, right? It's not hard to figure out. I don't have to say it was England in the 1860s. I don't have to say that. Because I think, but like apparently, like I said, this other author, and she's a YouTuber as well, and I don't want to insult her. I've enjoyed a lot of her videos. More than I really thought. 10 tropes I hate, stuff like that. But apparently her description of her setting was so ephemeral that it's possible to get through the entire first book of her series without understanding what it is you're looking at. And it's not as if Greece, ancient fucking Greece, doesn't have many famously iconic images, iconic things you could describe. Togas and sandals coming on in the village. Dress your characters with sandals and togas and give them wicked Greek names, and there you go. No, and that's one thing I have been I've laughed about is that one of the, you might call it limitations of setting my story is the names, okay? Because, English society has gone through the same cycle of 15 fucking names for both male and female, really, for ages, okay? So, instead of an Amaranth, we have Jane and Anne. There's a Sarah. There's a... Oh my god. My brain is not working. Oh my goodness. I forgot one of the characters' names. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm gonna bang my head on the desk. Until it comes back to me. No. Anyway, it will though. It will though. And a Danny and a George and a Charlie and a, a lot of these characters' names are not exactly inspired. On the other hand, they're not going to be hard to spell either, or pronounce. Because nobody's going to be arguing over how you pronounce these characters' names, which I think is nice because it's probably a waste of time. And everybody's sort of laughing. So I am. I'm just sitting here talking to myself. Anybody who's still watching this later. So I'm probably just going to ramble on about my book for the next half an hour. I'm tired of talking about Neil Gaiman. And fuck him. There are plenty of other writers in the world. At least, these ridiculous fantasy stories that I've been listening to news about. I don't know that those women are predators. Which is fun because, like I say, the spice is in the book. But, I don't know. Surely leaving such things out of your novels isn't selfish or selfish. That's weird. But we don't need guys like that. There are plenty of other people in the world who can write a decent book. I like to think I'm one of them. Okay? And eventually the world shall see. Like I said in the video, dude is complaining about what the mob might do to you if you engage with the culture. It's like, how in the hell are you supposed to be a famous author or, a successful author? How are you supposed to sell your goddamn books if you don't engage with the culture? That's some paranoid rambling. That struck me as paranoid rambling. Because they don't trust women over there at Right Conscious, apparently. I don't need to worry, so much about being alone in a room with women. So, I'm alone with a woman right now. Myself. I don't know. Does that count? But yeah, so not only am I fairly confident I can write a decent book, I think it might be better than some of the stuff that's been on the market over the last decade. Significantly. I had no idea. And no hate. Enjoy what you enjoy. If it's pulpy, it's not a moral book. But it's giving me some clues actually as to how I want to introduce it to people. I think. It's like I say, I don't want to put it under historical fiction, not just because it isn't, but also because nobody fucking reads historical fiction either. Fantasy is a much more popular genre. I'm not stupid. Obviously, I want to be in the fantasy category. And it's not as if it isn't justified by the plot, because it is. Oh, there's magic goes on. Like, it's not a lot of flashbang in your face Harry Potter style stuff, though. There's a couple of those, but not, you know. Also, as I'm going through, massaging it for the second draft, I'm still sort of working out the exact mechanics of how I want to portray the magic. It's funny though, and again, we're like half an hour from the end of this, and probably 30 people are ever going to see this, so I'm just going to say right here that it's a fake out. Okay, is it a soft or hard magic system? Well, and it took me so long actually to figure that out because the witches think that they're working in a hard magic system. The witches think they have this shit figured out. They don't. It's a much softer magic system than they know. Which again, I think speaks to larger patterns of human behavior, right? We really like to think that we have things figured out. Maybe we don't. And spoiler alert, it comes back to fight. Okay. I don't know. I've said before that the book is a tragedy, and I want to take that back, actually. Because I've been working it out, and I've been working on, the ending has not changed. But the context surrounding the ending has evolved quite a bit. So I want to take that back, and it's not a tragedy. It's a near miss, though. It's a bittersweet ending, I'll say that. But so I already know how it ends. I've already written it through once. Once I get the first third of it, polished up again, I can put that out there while I'm working on 2 and 3 for beta readers and such. I don't have to worry. Their feedback's not going to change the end. That shit ain't up in the air. You know what I'm saying? It's just not. I don't have that much swinging in the breeze here. There's just not that much up for debate. It's mainly clarity. I know what I want to get across, and I want to know, am I being effective in getting it across? I wrote a couple of weeks ago. I wrote a scene. Well, sort of 1 and then 2 little additional scenes that can all fit together, happen on the same night. Anyway, and I had my son read it. I considered it to be an info dump, and that's why one of the reasons that I added it. And as I've said before, I try to have every scene that I add do at least 3 things. They say that they say the common wisdom is that every scene you add, everything that happens in your novel should accomplish at least one thing. Characterization, advancing the plot, establishing the setting, something. And I try to have every scene that I write do at least 3, all 3 of them. Characterization, advancing the plot, and establishing the setting. I try to do all 3 of those somehow in everything that I put in there. But this one was also an info dump, okay? Because I know the whole picture. And some of the feedback that I got last year on the rough draft let me know that some of that connecting tissue just wasn't in there, So that's what I'm adding. That's some of what I'm adding, fleshing it out, And so that was this. This was to me, it was an info dump. And foreshadowing, that's right. This one was also foreshadowing for several things later on. That again, I've already written. I already know what that is. So foreshadowing is a whole lot easier to do when you already know where you're going. Anyway, it makes that very easy. And adding that is very fun, actually. Adding foreshadowing can be a lot of fun when you already know what you need to have in there for the payoff later. It can be very fun. But so I asked him, that didn't feel too on the nose, did it? That didn't feel too much of an info dump, did it? And he looked at me confused. It's like, no. What was I supposed to have learned in that passage? I said, well, this and this and this. And we picked up this tidbit, which is foreshadowing for something later, and da-da-da. And he went, oh, yeah, no, I got all of that. Like, oh, okay. Cool. But it didn't feel too info dumpy. He said, no. Like, all right. Because, and like, I love how another piece of common advice I keep coming across, which how this is an obvious, I don't know. I sound like such a snob when I say stuff like that. But like, I've read books. You can't just have your characters talking to each other in open white space. They have to be doing a thing and in a setting. It's like, yes. How the hell do you ever expect them to make a film version of your book if you don't give them any cinematography or a description, right? Come on. We don't know what's going on here. But not just that, they can be sitting at a table talking. But like, I don't know. I have several examples of that. It's the protagonist and her tutor, spend quite a bit of time in the library. But I feel like I already described why that is. And B, there's always, like, I include those scenes, like, yes, to establish their relationship, characterize the tutor and whatever. But like, whatever they're taught, like whatever just happened or whatever is about to happen is present in the scene over the table in the library. Either in the protagonist's mind or between the two characters, or both, obviously. Excuse me. So, we're advancing plot as well. I try to keep and then I did, and then I went, and then I opened the door, and then I walked down the stairs, and then I said hello to the neighbor, and then I picked up the newspaper, and then I went back in the house. Like, you're already asleep, right? Who gives a fuck? I worry sometimes about the teleportation problem, where like, smash cut to a day later, and we're walking through a doorway. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a lot harder to do that in a novel. That would be a chapter break, I guess, but like, I also sort of try to start the scenes like already in progress. Like the one I was talking about last week, it was, the clock set on the table, I sat on the sofa, the rain outside, and then we're in the protagonist's, perspective, and the rain is on the window, and the wind is blah, 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 and her sister's doing something next to her, but like, I try really, really hard to avoid things like, we've just established that the protagonist is looking out the window. So we can't then say that the sister has a smile on her face. We can't fucking see that. Stuff like that. I hate stuff like that. And it is a challenge with the first person because you have a very narrow laser focus of what the fuck you can show the audience, the reader, right? You have a very narrow window of what is actually available to show the reader. So it has to be done in a very particular way, and you do sort of have to lay everything out in a way that, dare I say, it almost feels a little boring to write, because it's stream of consciousness. You have to follow the stream. You have to take every stepping stone along the way, because if you skip one, all of a sudden your reader is fucking lost. And, as far as developing a strong character voice, I'm really working on that. Because I appreciate that my protagonist, you have to spend the whole fucking book inside her head. And if you are not interested in that, you're not going to read the fucking book. I appreciate that. I do. But I also know that this is possible. Okay? I watched something last year by somebody who just loved Islington was the name of the author. I do not remember the name of the book. I apologize about that. Just, I'll go ahead and talk to you. But this fella said that it was another, like, I think it was Rome this time. It was like a fantastical setting reminiscent of ancient Rome. Okay. And this guy is like a Praetorian guard, or I don't know, something like that. But it's first person narration, wherein this character is going over all these politics and all these details about all these other characters inside his head, right? And the thing that made it engaging was the character's voice and the way that he strung all the stuff together and sort of carried you along with his thought process. And I've seen it as an example of how show don't tell is more of a guideline, really, because that's literally nothing but telling. And that is both the charm and the major limitation to the first person method of storytelling. Is that on the one hand, yeah, you get to just tell your audience shit by having your character or see it. Okay. I looked over and there he was, stabbing him in the back. Like, you can literally just tell them shit without having to, weave some magic picture and, lay it all out beautifully like that. You don't necessarily have to do it that way. But at the same time, you can't do that. The way that, grand descriptions really don't make any fucking sense. Right? So frankly, like, if you're super proud of your world building and you think that is just, your setting is just gorgeous and amazing, and that's, the main character of your book, why would you do first person? Because it's just really focuses very limited, so it becomes almost a pastiche experience, right? Kind of like real experience, but that's what I'm going to do. If, high fantasy world building is what you're doing, why you would choose first person is so limited, I have no idea. Obviously, Tolkien would have done that. Imagine Lord of the Rings, first person from Frodo's perspective. I feel like that would have been repetitive after a while. I'm not necessarily agree. I'm not sure if we want to. I'm not necessarily agree. I'm not sure if we want to. Like, that would have got old fast. Okay. But so yeah, at the same time, you have the opportunity to what the character sees, the way you describe it is in their voice, like by default. Okay, every word is in that character's voice, which turns every word into an opportunity to craft that character's voice, which makes word choice both very finicky and very particular, but at the same time very important, very impactful. It can be very impactful. And so I've had to spend quite a lot of time with that character and getting to know how she talks, and stuff like that. Because ideally, if you've read it, you should feel like you met her. That's the idea. When you spend somebody's entire life with them, you should feel like you fucking know them, right? And like, other writers have certainly, achieved this sort of thing, right? I don't think that's, but that's why the narrowness and the depth. Okay, because it's one perspective, one life. And at the same time, I'm sticking to certain cinematic rules just for ease of the reader. Like, for example, there's not a whole lot of, like, why would you include the fucking toilets in the fairy realm? Where are we seeing anyone use the bathroom in a book with fairies in it? What the fuck is that? And I'll ask you this, taking it back to Tolkien. I'm not going to say they don't. I'm not going to say they don't. But does anyone ever relieve themselves throughout the entirety of The Lord of the Rings? Does that ever happen? Think about it. You have a troop of like a dozen ragtag people. Like, they do mention stuff about rationing food, but like a lot of the nitty gritty just isn't there. Okay. And that's what I'm talking about, cinematic rules. Like, if you see a character in a movie walk into a bathroom, some shit about to go down in that bathroom. because it's so mundane. Otherwise, they wouldn't be showing it to you at all. You're just supposed to assume the characters relieve themselves at some point. You don't see it because who wants to see that, right? Fucking story. We're here for the story. Like, stay on point. Okay, that's how I think of it. It's like stay on point. It's like, are these details, drawing the setting? And this is actually something I would love some input on from somebody at some point, because yeah, it's Victoriana, and I feel like people are just a little bit obsessed with like the clothes, and especially the undergarments, and like just the little weird daily life habit details of that period. I feel like there is an inordinate amount of interest in that crap. It's like, yeah, the character dresses like somebody from that period would, which involves like a corset and boots and stuff. And like, I'm not sure how much of that to include, because for one thing, I don't want to. It's not going to be like the whole, oh, the maid has to help her into the corset. No, it is wonderful. Okay, and I thought of putting a bit of a spotlight on it for that reason. I'm trying to spell any of that. It needs to be done tastefully, obviously. But how much of the details of stuff like that, of like her clothes and what they eat, like how much of that are people actually really interested in? One of the scenes I'm most excited about writing coming up, I have one more, and then I get to do this one. It's a dinner party. People love dinner parties, right? There's like a famous painter comes to visit, so they have a dinner party and everybody's gathered around the big long table, and it's gonna be such an info dump, you guys, because the dad has a reason to say all this family lore and shit because he's showing off for his famous guest. Okay, so again, I try and give this information reason to be presented to the reader when and where it is. And again, the character is still a child, so she's actually learning a lot of stuff too. We're learning it with her, which is useful. It's sort of that rule that this gets used in film a lot, where the main character, our point of view character, is like the new guy, and he gets shown around and learning the ropes, and so we get shown around with him. Everybody explains shit to him, and therefore us. So it's sort of like that. When your main character starts out as a child, people have a way of just kind of explaining shit to kids too. I gotta take more advantage of that, really. I had the mother say something about how you can't stay here all your life. Oh my god. Which is one of those, like, there are some things I write in, where it's just a line of dialogue, and the mother has her own reason for saying it. Okay. The mother's maybe not especially happy with, her own marriage. Not necessarily like she doesn't like the dad, but like they kind of live out in the middle of nowhere in an ancient, like, house. It's like not exactly her idea of the family side. So, her advice is to do better than she did, which is perfectly normal advice for a mother to give, right? I mean, so she's like, so you want to get yourself a better home, and the girl's like, better? Yeah, well, you can't stay here all of your life. Again, like it's working for the dialogue, but it's also foreshadowing of other things, and it's the kind of thing that to write it is to just sit back and go, ooh, that one's a lot, Okay, we got 10 minutes. I'm so glad, because I need to go inside and take care of something. All this water dripping everywhere is not helping, and I've had a whole cup of coffee, and yeah. But I think somebody's still hanging around. Who's still here with me? Joe, is that you? Somebody been sitting here listening to me prattle on about my books for the last half an hour? Because that would be great. Work continues. I don't know if I'm going to have that first third done by the end of the year at this point. I don't. But this and that and the other thing just keeps. I wish I could tell y'all about last week. Suffice it to say, it is very personal what happened last week, but it was hellish. And I lost a week last week. and stuff like that just keeps on happening. But work continues. I'm gonna finish it because I'm not gonna quit. So, because I can't anyway. It just keeps spinning. And sometimes I do. I think maybe the real reason, honestly, sometimes I take in reviews of other people's work and like plot lines, and it's because I'm always relating it back to my own stuff, obviously, because everything's about me, duh. And sometimes it'll give me a nugget. Sometimes it'll help me work out a kink. Sometimes I'll have a light bulb go off and go, oh. Not that I'm copying things. It's not that at all. But like, sometimes it's more along the lines of the people reviewing the book will be like, oh, well, why didn't she do that? She should have done this. And I'll be like, you know what? That is a good idea. Maybe I'll do something like that. Like, it's so much fun. I'm having so much fun writing it, mostly. I don't know. I figured out what my inciting incident was a couple of weeks ago, which sounds ridiculous at this late in the game, right? But like the story's already there, y'all. I'm just fitting it into the story. I'm just trying to make it make sense. And so yeah, I pinpointed what the inciting incident was. And yeah, I figured out why that scene was so difficult to write. That scene needs work. My inciting incident scene needs work. And I figured out why. That's why that scene was so hard to write. Because it doesn't seem like a whole lot. It's definitely, there's definitely a moment that might make me sit up and go, whoa, what? But it's short. And it's, suffice it to say, she doesn't have a very good relationship with her mother, and this is where we first really establish that. And that's a theme that carries through the entire book. And yeah, I don't know. So it needs to work. It needs to be well written. But the descriptions have been sort of getting away from me on that one, and I think that's why. Because it is a whole lot deeper and like more disturbing than it first appears. Maybe I should try and find some way to sort of work that in. I don't know. I'll be honest. I try and slip things by people. There may be moments, especially the first book, when you're sort of sitting there reading it thinking, okay, why are we looking at this? I'm not going to lie. There are definitely places, especially in the first book, where it's not all foreshadowing. There's a lot of characterization. We're establishing the setting, and the setting is, if you don't mind my saying so, super interesting. Did I mention it's like 100-year-old manor house out in the middle of nowhere? It is a very interesting setting, in my humble opinion. So it's worth seeing, right? The setting is worth seeing and establishing, and the characterization is, very fun. I'm fine tuning that. And the interactions with the other characters are fun. They all have pretty distinctive voices. I don't understand, like, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, like, I couldn't do that. For example, this is actually a good example. Okay, because there are actually 3 brothers. But, like, these are, okay, loosely based on real people. We'll just say that. There are 3 brothers, and I had cut it down to 2 for the sake of simplicity in writing, because the 3rd brother's actions don't really have a material effect on what goes on, which sounds like a terrible thing to say about somebody, but I ended up having to bring him back because it doesn't work without him later on. He affects the other characters' relationships, like he affects the group dynamic in such a way that I needed Freddy back. But initially what I did in my rough draft was I just combined the 2 younger brothers into one character. And when they're younger, it worked. Because one person could be kind of surly and sarcastic and then private and then like supercilious and kiss ass in public, right? That makes some sense. But one person is not both a drunk and an acrobat. Like, the 2 characters diverged to the point that it didn't make any fucking sense anymore. And it's like that surly, sarcastic guy would just never marry that woman. Like it didn't make sense. And I could not do that. I just couldn't have George just do whatever the fuck I needed him to do for the novel. I just couldn't do that. So I'm having to go back to the beginning. Like I was going to go back to the beginning anyway and, make a second draft. But I had to go back and just add in an entire another character rather than do that. Rather than just have my character do what I need him to do because I need him to do it, even though it didn't make any fucking sense. So overall, I'm gaining some confidence in the quality of the thing, if only by virtue of comparison. It doesn't matter if it doesn't sell. It doesn't matter if nobody reads it. Which is the thing that haunts, probably every writer who ever lived, right? It doesn't matter how much of your heart and soul and blood, sweat, and tears you put into a novel if nobody fucking reads it. There's always that possibility. Which is one of the reasons I have this channel. And I do so much appreciate anybody who's still watching, especially. You guys are the core, right? I mean, maybe we'll try this, if you're still watching, comment down below something along those lines. I'm still watching, or something like that. Nobody ever comments under these things except occasionally Brown will write me a very interesting novella. Like, come along and just leave mega interesting comments. Which, no offense, Charles, they seem to kind of come sort of out of left field sometimes. But you're the only one who ever comments underneath these things. So if you're still with me, let me know that down below. I would love to know how many people actually made it this far. And if you're interested in this in the novel, because you just heard all of that, and by virtue of that, are probably more knowledgeable about it than most people in the whole world right now. So. And it was so frustrating, that dude in this week's video talking about kicking off a literary renaissance. I'm like, you're speaking my language, my man. Independently minded people. I don't know about independently educated. I feel like a common knowledge base is a good thing, right? But like independent minded people with some, amount of centeredness in themselves that are, looking to be proactive and improving the world. Yeah, that sounds great. And then he spent the entire video talking about how you should fear success and fear women. Fearing success, I don't think is how you get success. I don't think that's how you achieve your goals, by being afraid of them. And as far as fearing women, well, I don't. So that ship has sailed. Sorry, dude. Like I said in the video, I'm not his target audience, and I understand that. But I wonder who his target audience is. He doesn't get a whole lot more views than I do, I don't think. But from where I'm sitting, just about everybody's punching up. So not worried about that. But guys like that, like upstarts like that, frankly, who have read a bunch of stuff and think that they're going to lead some kind of movement. And then he won't be alone in a room with a woman. Like, what the fuck kind of fundamentalist weird shit is that? That is toxic shit. That is you not trusting a single woman in the whole world. And that's not the kind of person we need leading any kind of renaissance. I don't know that a person like that could lead any kind of a renaissance. Sounds backwards as shit to me. And so I'm going to leave it there because it's 2 o'clock. And there's nobody here. So I get to decide when and exactly how I leave. So I'm going to scratch my nose and wave to everybody. And I will see you guys next Wednesday. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.